Derek, I was asking you before the break about Thursday the 7th of November when you went to the house of Eddie and Lottie with Julie. The next day you were also on duty, and that was Friday the 8th of November?
Yep.
And at some point during the day, you explained to Her Honour in your statement, you went to the basketball court and you met up with Margaret and Jean Brown.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the conversation you had with them on that day?
Yeah, we approached them and just had a chat about Kumanjayi ending himself in. Yeah, that was the conversation we had. But after the funeral, they wanted him to be present at the funeral. Yeah.
And did Margaret and Jean seem to understand that that was the right thing to do?
Yep.
And did you think that that was what was going to happen with Kumanjayi, that he'd hand himself in after the funeral?
Yes.
With help from those family?
Yep. On
Saturday the 9th of November, you had a day off work because you needed to go to that funeral too.
Yes.
And you explain in your statement that you can't recall exactly when, but sometime before the funeral you got a text message from Sergeant Frost, from Julie.
Yep.
And it said something like, hey Derek, getting IRT out here tonight, can you give me a quick buzz at some stage before or after the funeral so I can get a plan in action?
Yep.
At that time, November 2019, did you know what the IRT was?
No.
Had you ever heard of them before?
No.
And did Julie actually text those letters, IRT?
Yep.
After you got that text message, you spoke to Julie on the phone?
Yeah.
Can you remember what you said on the phone to Julie?
Yeah. She wanted me and Constable LFAO, Felix, to arrest Kumanjayi the next day, to a morning raid, yeah.
And did she say how that would work?
Yeah. Me and Felix would have taken the lead and IRT present, but not leading the rest. Yep.
Did she tell you a particular time that was going to happen?
Yeah, around about 5 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
And did she tell you where you should be at 5 o'clock in the morning or before?
Yeah, we had to station before 5, so yeah.
And did you say anything back to her about that plan?
To some extent, but yeah. It would have been good that Felix and I arrested Kumanjayi that day or the next day. That's what I told her, yeah.
And what did Julie say about that?
Yeah, she wanted us local members to lead the rest, yeah.
In your statement, you say, I didn't know that Julie was bringing in these people who were going to be kitted out with heavy stuff. Do you mean with the IRT being kitted out with heavy stuff?
Yeah.
And by heavy stuff...
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Sure.
Yep.
When you had that conversation with the family that he would hand himself in after the funeral, what sort of time frame were you thinking about when you used the word after the funeral?
From my understanding, it was not straight after the funeral. It was for the next day. Yep.
So if the funeral was going on the 9th of November, the Saturday?
Yep.
And did you think it would be finished on that day?
Yeah.
So Kumanjayi would hand himself in on Sunday the 10th?
Yep. And family also said they wanted him present there, and they would bring him into the station the next day. Oh, yeah.
So when Julie was saying to you, I want you to come at 5 o'clock and Felix will be there, did you think that was a bit strange because he was going to hand himself in that day?
Yeah, it was a bit strange that the family wanted to take him to the station and hand himself in, and Julie wanted to do it differently. Do a morning raid, yeah.
At that time when you were talking to her on the phone, did you feel like you could say to her, no, that's the wrong thing, Julie, or you should wait a bit longer?
I didn't really much barge into her because she's always here at the station, and whatever she calls, she calls. But yeah.
At that time, did you have any information about the break-ins on the clinic, to the houses of the clinic staff?
Yeah.
And did you have any conversation with Julie about it? Do you remember when you were talking on the phone on that day, Saturday the 9th?
No.
Did you know yourself who was involved in any of those break-ins prior to the 9th of November?
No.
Was there a discussion between you and any of the Cardia police about who might have been involved in that?
Yeah, I think that small fingerprints and stuff like that, they're probably done by a 12-year-old or 11-year-old, yeah.
So did you think it was kids who were breaking into those houses?
Yeah.
Were you ever asked by any of the Cardia police if you could talk to kids or get the elders to help out with those break-ins?
Nah, not really, because like every day we had we partnered up with different officers, and we don't we police need to be Mandela and Willer as well. That's included in the Indimu jurisdiction. So sometimes we spend a day either near Willer or Laramba or Mandalay. Yeah.
I'll come back to that when we were talking at the end about future plans and learning from this. I'll come back to that idea about how police and clinic can work together. I'll just finish this story about what happened with Kumanjayi.
Yep.
When you were having that conversation with Julie after her text message on Saturday, and she said there was a plan to arrest him at 5 o'clock the next morning, but other police would also be coming in from Alice Springs. Do you remember did she say anything about who the IRT were at that time?
No. She only just said we bringing in dog squad, and I thought the IRT were general duty officers from Alice Springs. Yeah.
You say in your statement, it seemed to me that there were two plans in place to arrest Kumanjayi. One that Sergeant Frost communicated to Eddie and Lottie, where he would hand himself in after the funeral, and another where he would be arrested by early morning raid if he didn't hand himself in.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a conflict between those two?
Yeah, I think there was 3 conflicts there, because the Brown family wanted to bring him in as well, and the Robertsons wanted to bring him in as well, but Julie planned up the arrest for the morning raid. So, yeah.
What you say in your statement was, if I had known who the IRT were, including that they were carrying heavy weapons, you would have told Julie that she should not involve them with the arrest of Kumanjayi. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you think IRT were general duties?
Yeah, from Alice Springs, yeah.
Do you, at that time in November 2019, would you have understood what she meant if she said the TRG are coming to help arrest him?
Yeah, no TRG, yeah.
What would you have said if Julie had said something like, you can help us arrest him at 5 o'clock the next morning and the TRG are going to come out with you and help arrest him?
Yeah. I would also said that, there's no need for IRT or TRG to come in, that, we would have done it ourselves, the local police. Yeah.
At some point at that time, you heard someone say that the medical staff had left the community during the day. Did you find out about that from police or medical staff or someone else?
No, the family or the community, a push telegraph just went around the community that the clinic staff was left in the moon. Yeah.
And had that ever happened before that you know of, while you were working in Yuendamu, that the clinic staff had left?
No.
You say in your statement that people in the community were very angry and worried about that because there's a lot of families who rely on that medical care.
Yep.
And clinic staff had left without notifying anyone, as far as you know. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that when you heard that they'd gone?
Well, we've got vulnerable people, the elders and old ladies, old men that rely on medication for high blood pressure or whatever, diabetes and stuff like that. And then if they miss out, then, we would have people lining up at the emergency center there. But, probably people having heart attacks or something like that, yeah.
So when you heard from community that the medical staff had gone, did you feel worried?
Yeah, I did.
We're going to have some information from health about this. At the time in November 2019, were there some Yappa people working in the clinic as well as cardio?
Yep.
Can you remember how many Yappa there were?
My brother, he works as a male nurse or receptionist sometimes, but and there's two other Aboriginal ladies that work with the clinic, being a receptionist and also what you call midwife stuff. Yeah.
Were the Yappa staff members, did they stay behind in the community after the cardio members left?
Yep.
But the clinic was closed, is that right?
Yeah.
How important is it, Derek, to have Yappa people working in the clinic, do you think?
It is really important because, you got old ladies, old people that don't speak much English because Warlpiri is their first language, and it comes with the cultural awareness as well. And just need Yappa working there too, yeah.
You say in your statement that when it was starting to get dark, most people had left the cemetery and there are just a few of the men left.
Yeah.
Did you see Kumanjayi at all down at the funeral any time on the 9th of November?
What do you mean by funeral? At the basketball courts or the gravesite?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I asked that differently. I'll start with the basketball courts. Did you see Kumanjayi there?
Yeah, I saw him there that day.
Did you have a chat to him at all?
Nah. Where's all morning at the time, yeah.
And after you were at the basketball court and that morning period was finished, there was actually then a burial, is that right?
Yes.
And you went to that burial?
Yep.
Did you see Kumanjayi there?
Nah, I didn't see him there.
When you were at the cemetery with that burial, there were just a few men left and a young fella called Anthony Haynes came racing over to you in his car, is that right?
Yep.
And he yelled out that Kumanjayi had been shot.
Yep.
And you thought he must have meant he'd been tasered.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard when you've been working in Central Australia, have you ever been worried that the police might actually shoot someone before this time?
No.
How did you feel when you heard that he'd been shot?
I was like, it was hard to explain that, something like this could happen in the community. And yeah,
You and your dad, Warren, were there,
yep,
and you jumped in your car and drove over to Margaret Brown's house, which is near the footy oval.
yep,
You could see there were a lot of people standing around and everybody was very upset, is that right?
yes,
And you explained in your statement there was Eddie and Lottie, Stephen Marshall and Paul Marshall, and there were some other people there as well.
yep,
And as you walked towards the house, there were marks in the dirt that looked like someone had been dragged along the ground.
yeah.
What was that like for you?
I felt really angry and upset, and like I was lost for word. How could this happen? Yeah, and like I was, doesn't matter I'm a police officer, but it still made me feel afraid of fear. Yeah.
When you had that conversation with Julie, that police were going to be, extra police from Alice Springs were going to be there in the morning for that raid that she planned. Did you think that the police were going to be arriving that night before and be in the community?
Yeah.
But you thought that was the General Duties police?
Yeah. Yep.
So when you got to that house where there were those drag marks, you say to Her Honour in your statement, you could see the front of the house was lit up on the veranda.
Yep.
And the door was open. You didn't go into the door?
Nah. I didn't walk inside the house. I just had a peek through the door and saw blood stains on the mattress and 3 bullet casing on the mattress.
And what happened after that?
I just told everybody not to go in. I locked the door and just leave it at that, so it could be investigated. Yeah.
Am I right that you pulled that door closed and locked it because that was your police training? You had to preserve that scene
Yes.
so you could find out later what had actually happened.
Yep.
And then after that, you and your father Warren drove to the police station.
Yes.
When you got to the police station, were there already people outside?
No, we was the first one there. Yeah, we just we walked in to the police station. I walked in and I wanted to talk to Sergeant Julie Frost, but everybody was running back and forth from in the station, and she was. She said she couldn't talk to me, and so when I walked back out, I could see officers doing CPR on my nephew, and that made me feel really upset. Yeah, I just walked out the door.
Derek, could you recognise any of the officers who were doing CPR on
No,
nephew?
no.
You say in your statement that Sergeant Frost seemed upset and anxious.
Yep.
Had you ever seen her like that before?
No.
She asked you if you wanted to come back on duty.
Yep.
And you said no, you wanted to go and help the community members at that time.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you had gone on duty, you would have had to go home and get changed.
Yeah.
There you wanted to stay on the ground and make sure you could help settle everything.
Yep.
When you went back outside after you'd been in and you'd seen your nephew, were there people starting to gather at the police station?
Yeah, people were pulling up. Yeah.
Did you stayed outside, didn't you, the whole time for the rest of the night? Is that right?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yeah.
How many community members do you think came to that outside the police station?
Probably 50 or more, but it was too dark to see. There was people on the bitumen because there was only like street lights there lit up, and yeah.
In terms of the elders who were out there, we know there was one elder who's passed away, so I won't ask you for his name. There was your dad, Warren.
Yep.
Was Robin Granite's there as well?
No, I couldn't. I didn't see him there early on, yeah.
Was Ned there?
No.
At some point?
No, I didn't see him as well, yeah.
So in terms of keeping the crowd or the community members calm, who was able to do that?
Me and my father and my grandfather, yep.
Julie told you that the ambulance was on its way at some point, is that right, from Mount Allen?
Yep,
And that's about 45 minutes drive away.
yeah.
You came out of the police station, you went out the front and you spoke to everybody. What sort of things were you telling them?
I didn't come outside, I was already outside.
Oh, I'm sorry, after you got outside.
Yeah, I just told everybody to calm down and don't disturb because they were doing CPR because there was no medical staff there I could hear people screaming, yelling, crying and wanting answers and I just wanted to keep everybody safe from everybody, basically, yeah.
How did you feel at that time, Derek?
I was, like I said, I was angry and upset, but most of all, I just wanted to keep the community safe and everybody, yeah.
You told the community they needed to let police deal with it
Yep,
and not to cause any trouble.
yep,
Do you think that the community members listened to you at that time?
yep.
Were there some young fellas outside who were getting a bit stressed and agitated?
Yeah, that rocks on their ends and wanted to throw rocks at the station, but luckily we told them not to do that and yeah, they listened to us, yeah.
While you were outside, Felix Alafeo was inside, is that right?
Yep.
And he was able to give you some updates through the door in the station?
Yeah, only once he came out and said, oh, you know, we police are doing CPR and after that he shut the door and went back inside, yeah.
You had your mobile phone on you at that time, is that right?
Yep.
In the brief of evidence, Her Honour can see the text messages that were sent between you and Julie. I'm not going to read them all out to you. Have you read them yourself recently?
No.
You, just by an example, you tell Julie that you're all right with your family. At some point you got a text message saying to you that Nobbsy, who I think is Superintendent Nobbs,
Yep.
gave you a direction to leave the community, and police are about 5 minutes from leaving and can you come? And you said, no, I'm all right with my family.
Yep.
So you made a decision to stay there in the community even if other police were going to leave.
Yep.
Why was that, Derek?
That's my community. I can't leave the community, and I live there, and I grew up there. I can't leave my people stranded, and it's just that I can't leave my community. Yeah.
We saw from Samara's videos the situation for the crowd through the night and some frustration that the community was not getting answers about what had happened to Kumanjayi.
Yep.
At some point, were you ever told at any time during the night that Kumanjayi had passed away?
No.
So did you think while you were outside with the community that the police were inside still giving him first aid through the night?
Yep.
The community, Samara told us that community were getting very frustrated that they didn't know what was happening.
Yep.
Before the ambulance got there, or while the ambulance nurses were inside the station. Did you feel frustrated?
Yeah. Like I felt frustrated because I'm an uncle too, and someone so young, struggling inside with unknown people surrounding him, and yeah, I just felt really angry. Yeah.
When Julie was communicating with you, she texted, "How will gathering elders go for a conversation to quell the crowd if they find out about this? Is there going to be trouble once they find out?" Did you know what she meant by once they find out about this?
Yeah, I thought she was talking about like the shooting, not my nephew passing away. Yeah,
She says, you said back to her, "Yeah, there will be trouble, but people just want to find out.
yeah,
Elders will help with the sorting out families."
yeah.
And Julie said, "Will the elders be able to help if they find out? Are we in danger at all?" And you said, "Yeah, all be in danger and the elders will sort it from there."
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Yeah, like the family wanted answers, and like like everybody, as a human being, you feel angry. There will be consequences. Maybe there would have been violence or something like that. But touch wood, everybody been listening to elders and me at the front. Yeah.
And Derek, there's some text messages where Julie says to you, "So should we evacuate?" And then she writes, "Should we evacuate?" And there's some question marks, and she says, "Need an answer ASAP due to plane coming in. Derek, where are you? Derek, call me." Was it hard for you to respond to her by text message?
No, probably I was busy at the time controlling the people at the front. Yeah, I couldn't go back to his text. Right. Yeah.
One thing you say in your statement is that night was really difficult for you as an ACPO because it required you to walk in both worlds. You've got police law that you've got to uphold.
Yep.
And you've got your culture and your family and your relationships.
Yep.
So important.
Yep.
It was really hard for you.
Yeah, it was really hard that night. Yeah.
But you wanted everybody to be safe.
Yep.
When you said everybody, did you mean the police as well as?
Yep, police and the community. Yep.
You tell us in this statement that there's a light sensor in that police station.
Yep.
So if you go into a room, the light comes on.
Yep.
And if you've been out for a while, it goes off.
Yep.
When you were outside looking into the police station, could you see any of what the police were doing inside?
Could see movements and lights on, but there's 3 rooms at the front there. There's sergeant's room, office, and interview rooms. When somebody triggers the light comes on, and when they leave, the light turns back off by itself. So, yeah.
Did you see any of the officers inside the station carrying any guns?
No.
Could you see any guns on any table or anything like that?
Yeah, I could see some firearms there. We call them as AR-15s. On the in the muster room, there was the firearms there. Yeah.
Had you ever seen any police in the community carrying those sorts of weapons before November 2019?
No.
What was the feeling like for you when you saw those weapons there?
Oh, well, I thought, Yunamu was going to be a war zone, and it's only a little Aboriginal community, and we're not fighting, terrorism. It's really, really hard for people to, when they see it, it really makes them feel uncomfortable, and yeah.
And Derek, when you were outside in the community with the Cardia police inside, at any time did any of those Cardia police come out into the community?
No.
Did you see the ambulance coming in from Mount Allen?
Yeah, yep.
When the ambulance came in with those nurses in it, how did the community seem to respond to those nurses when they first came?
I just told them there because they were working on my nephew doing CPR, and I just wanted the ambulance to go in and do more emergency stuff with my nephew. Yeah.
So did the community seem angry with the ambulance first, or happy that they were there, relieved?
It was a bit of mix, like angry at the same time, but happy to see an ambulance there. Yeah.
And then we know that sometime around 10:30, 11 o'clock, there were 2 police cars who left the station with an ambulance in between the 2 police cars that
Yeah.
raced off towards the airstrip. Did you see that happen?
Yeah, I saw that happening. Yeah, I was at the front door, just sitting with families. Yeah.
Did you know at that stage where they were going?
No, people were pointing up in the sky. There was a plane circling around quietly with no lights, and I thought, I thought they were heading to the airstrip.
And what did you do after you saw them head to the airstrip?
I followed behind, backed up, ran the gate there. Yeah,
Were you driving at the time you were following behind?
yeah.
And who was was anyone else in the car with you?
My wife and my daughter.
And when you got to the airstrip, what could you see there?
I could see in the distance the ambulance next to the plane, and police near the gates there, holding the gates. Yeah.
Did you think at that time that Kumanjayi was still alive?
Yeah.
Did you think that he was going to be flown to Alice Springs?
Yeah, I thought he was getting flown into town. Yeah.
And did you think he was in that ambulance and going to be taken in the plane to Alice Springs?
Yep.
At some point after that trip to the airstrip, did you leave and go back to the station?
Now went back home because my daughter was feeling tired, so I had to go back home.
Did you see when the ambulance and the police cars left that airstrip?
No.
Were you in court before when Samara was giving her evidence?
Yep.
Remember I read to her from that outline that Chris Hand had done?
Yep.
Like a log that he kept?
Yep.
In his log, he notes that when the ambulance was driven back to the police station, there was a rock thrown at the ambulance and one of the nurses got a gash on her head.
Yep.
Did you hear that night that had happened?
No.
And he also made a note that there was a call from Waidak because there was a fire at the clinic. Did you find out that night that happened?
No.
So I take it from those answers, Derek, none of the Cardia police rang you and asked for help with any of that?
No.
When did you first find out that Kumanjayi had passed away?
I found out that TRG knocked on my door and said that it was about 4 o'clock, and they said Kumanjayi passed away. Yeah.
So the TRG that knocked, was it just one person or more than one?
There were 2 there. Yeah.
And were they men, those TRG?
Yep.
And what were they wearing?
Camouflage stuff too. Yeah.
Did they have guns on them when they knocked on the door?
No.
Had you ever seen TRG yourself out in community?
Yeah, I saw him. When we had rights at Unimo, I saw him then. Yeah.
Was that background? Can you remember the year that was?
2010, 11. Yeah, around that area.
When the TRG knocked on the door and told you that Kumanjayi passed away, you tell Her Honour in your statement they wanted you to come down to the station and identify the body.
Yeah.
What did you tell them about that?
I told them that I can't attend and identify the body because, like I said, cultural significance that uncles or the fathers are not allowed to see their own sons or nephews' body. It gotta be cousins or brothers or sisters to see it there.
So that would have been really wrong way for you to go down and identify that.
Yeah.
At that time, how were you feeling to learn that your nephew had passed away like that?
Like I was lost for word, and I was crying, and I was a bit upset.
In your text messages with Julie, you explained that everyone in the community had thought that he had gone out on that plane. There's a text message at 4:24 a.m. after you found out, and you say to Julie that Kumanjayi's body should have went into town. Everybody thinks he'd already gone into town.
Yeah.
Can you tell her, Anna, what was it like for you? What feeling did you have that you thought his body was in town, but it wasn't? Did you feel like someone hadn't told you the truth about that?
Yeah. I felt betrayed from my own colleagues that something like this should have been told to me, or I would have passed it on to the families, and vice versa, Yeah.
Does that have any impact ongoing, Derek? Does that still cause you pain?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So, did you stay in the community in the days after Kumanjayi passed away?
Yep.
Were you asked by police to do any jobs in the community as a police officer?
No.
What was it like for you in the community in those days afterwards?
Me and my brothers were attending sorry business. All the fathers of the deceased or uncles gotta be at the sorry business, so that's where I was, and yeah.
So we saw some short videos from Samara where there were some ladies at sorry business the next day.
Yep.
Separate to that, were there some men at sorry business?
Yep.
And you were down there,
Yep.
your dad
Yep.
and your brothers?
Yep.
And in Samara's videos we can see just how hurt and sorry everybody is.
Yep.
Was it like that for lots of people in the community?
Yeah. That from that night, the community just turned upside down. They couldn't believe what happened that night, and everybody was just feeling down, angry, upset. Yeah.
When you were in the community for those days that followed Kumanjayi passing, did you see that there were TRG in the community?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you see any police in the community after that who were carrying their guns around?
No, I was mostly at the sorry camp, because when somebody passes away, like your nephew or son, you're not allowed to move around the community. You have to be stationed at the sorry camp. Yeah.
Did you notice, I know you just told us you were stationed at the sorry camp, did you see any members of the community who were causing any damage or getting really angry after Kumanjayi died in those first few days?
No, we was all mourning for a loss. Yeah.
after Kumanjayi passed away, did you go and live in another community for a little while?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Hammondsburg.
And where are you living now, Derek?
Back at Unival. Yeah.
How long have you been back at Yundaru?
For the last probably 3 or 4 months now. Yeah.
And what's it like being back in the community now?
It's feel a bit upset of what happened there, but we had stories like family members passing away. And the feeling in the community is just a bit down at the moment. So yeah.
What impact has this had, the way Kumanjayi passed and what happened afterwards? What impact has it had on you working as an ACPO?
Like I said, I felt betrayed from my colleagues and the police force, and at that time I wanted to quit, but I stood strong for my community and for my people there.
And Derek, have you had a chance to talk about what happened with Julie or any of the other officers who were there?
No.
I know sometimes you need some time, but do you think it would be good to talk to people in the police about what happened at some point?
Yeah. I reached out to other members in the police force and just told them how I felt, and I won't be coming back to work soon, and that's the feeling I had.
So you're still in ACPO?
Yep.
And you know how much your community needs you? Is that fair?
Yep.
And I'm going to ask you some questions about what we can do and learn from Kumanjayi's tragic passing away. Would you like to keep working as an ACPO for a while, do you think?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some ways in which you might be supported at Yundamu.
Yeah.
You suggest some in your statement. You say, I think whenever there's an arrest plan for a serious offence, there should be an ACPO on duty and involved.
Yep.
And if one is not available, then a senior elder should be asked.
Yes.
Why is that important?
After what happened that night, it's the respect for the place isn't there anymore. That's why you need elders and other community members to build a relationship back with the place to move forward, and getting an elder is more not improper, but appropriate to move forward so the elders can explain how we operate in the community. Yeah. And something like this doesn't happen again. Yeah.
When you're training as an ACPO or a senior ACPO, do you learn about use of force and how you do it?
Yeah, we do recalls, we call it, requalification every 12 months. It's called defensive tactics, and that's how we rest people on the ground or near the wall, or and utilizing all our equipments. Yeah.
One thing you say in your statement is it's important to involve an ACPO or a senior elder because that means that there can be culturally appropriate communication, and that means that's the first tactical response.
Yes.
And it's less likely that someone will get hurt then.
Yep.
Does that make it safer for Yapa and safer for Cardia too?
Yep. Both ways. It'll be safer for everybody if an elder or an ACPO works with the police to arrest a person in a good way, not go hands on using force. That is not necessary at that time when they arrest people. Yeah.
I've probably got another 15 minutes with Derek. I'm wondering if we could come back tomorrow. I can gather my thoughts. I imagine that my learned friends will also have some questions for Derek.
Yes, certainly. You're happy to come back tomorrow to answer some more questions and to tell us a little bit more about your experiences?
Yes, Your Honour. Yeah.
Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We can adjourn. We've got just a little bit more work to do, but you can leave now and have a break till tomorrow morning if you like. Officer.
I'm just going to tender all the paper that's come so far. Can I start, Your Honour, by tendering the birth certificate of Kumanjayi? Perhaps I'll just list these onto the record rather than do them.
Thank you. So, are we numbering them separately?
I think that would be easiest, Your Honour, if I may, and then we'll do an index of these and hand them up so they'll be easy to access.
Thank you. Then I'll just get them, if you read them onto the record, what's being done, please 1, 2, wherever we get to, but we will do that next.
Thank you. 1, the birth certificate of Kumanjayi. 2, the Roxanne Lane video part 1, and that's at 841D of the brief. 3, the history of Kumanjayi, pages 19 and 20 that I referred to in my opening, and that's at 2/01 with the pages mentioned. 4, the promise entry created by Sergeant Frost on the 6th of November 2019 that I put up on the screen during my opening, and that's at 19/58. 5, the email from Sergeant McCormack on the 9th of November 2019, and that appears at 7-101. 6, the email from Sergeant Frost with the arrest plan dated the 9th of November 2019, and that is 7-101. 7, the body-worn video of Constable Rolfe, 1 of 4, depicting house number 577, that is the arrival at that house and the open carry of weapons and the entry into that house. That's at 4-1. 8, body-worn video of Constable Adam Ebel depicting the conversation with Miss Elizabeth Snape. That's at 4-1. 9, an email from Sergeant Frost to Superintendent Noggs and other watch house commanders and senior management. That's at 19-56. There was an email sent on the 9th of November 2019 shown in my opening. Thank you. That's sent at 5:46 a.m. on the 9th of November. 10, the photograph of the Northern Territory Police Force issue AR-15. 11, photograph of Northern Territory Police Force issue beanbag shotgun. And I also tender, Your Honour, the videos that were shown today. I note that in relation to 2 of those videos, there is a non-publication order. Without going into the tedious technicalities, we might have published them in some respects by showing them on the live stream previously. But what is intended, of course, is that they not be shown by the media in any way that reveals either a child or someone who has passed on. And they are videos at 4-19A and 4-20. So the videos appear at 4-19A through to 4-28, And the two that are subject to a non-publication order, so specifically a request to media not to republish in any way or publish in any way that reveals the child or the person that has passed on, are videos 21 and 24.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. If we could adjourn now till tomorrow.